Alright, so if you saw my last video on the off-season tip-up that I did, I showed you the little fish that I had caught. And I was thinking that I caught a little fish because I have a little boat. So then I thought, if I got a bigger boat, will I catch bigger fish? Let's get dusty and find out. Alright, so here is the next project. It is a 12-foot aluminum boat. As you can see, it needs a little bit of help. And that's what we're going to do. Alright, so what do I got to do? Obviously, I got to reduce seats. That's kind of step one. But because the boat hasn't been in the water for, I know of, at least 5 years, I'm going to reseal all of the seams on the bottom, just for safety measures. The back transom's got to be redone. I want to do a dual anchor setup on it. I got to get some oars, and I got some other plans and projects in mind. So that's what we're going to do. So then I'm going to use this boat in my next video, or maybe not my next video, but one of my upcoming videos on an actual fishing trip that I'm taking pretty soon. So I'm going to use this boat that I build, that I rehab, to use my off-season tip-up to hopefully then catch the pike of my dreams. So, let's get dusty. Alright, so I've got the boat all dismantled and for the most part cleaned out. The front inside part of the transom is good, so I'm going to leave that alone. The back I just ripped off easily, so obviously that had to be replaced. But I am seeing a lot more patch jobs than I'd like to admit. So I got one here, and I got one back here, and I think I saw some more. But so what I'm going to do is before I invest a lot more time and money into this boat, I want to make sure that it does not leak horribly. Now I'm not going to take this to the water to try that. I might have to, but we're going to try something different. And I think I've heard of this before, but I'm going to fill it with water and see if it leaks out. Feel like if it leaks out, then it's got a leak, and if it holds pretty good. If it holds pretty decent, I'm going to be happy, because I'm not going to be out in this thing for hours and days or whatever. So if there's a small little leaks, I'll deal with that. But before I seal anything, I'm going to fill it up with probably a foot of water. It being so tippy, it is making me kind of wondering what's going to happen when I fill it with water. I'm going to fill it with water, give it some time, see if it leaks out. And then they'll also tell me if I need a new plug too, because that's another thing I'm wondering about. So I have two different ways that I'm going to detect leaks. One is all of the surrounding dirt is dry. I made sure to not spill any water around it. So if I have any damp sand, that's going to tell me that there's a leak. Also, is I have this very accurate Leakomatter 6000 right here. So basically, stick's going to get wet as far as you can tell. It shouldn't really absorb the water, but I am going to put a piece of tape or something around it when I get to that point in case the water does absorb, and I will see if it goes down. So, I'm going to fill it up a little ways, and I'm going to give it probably an hour or so. Then I'll make a giant muddy mess for my kids. As you can see, I've got about 4 or 5 inches of water in there, and I do have a leak. Kind of figured I was going to have one right in there. You can kind of see that seam right there is pretty awful. I already kind of figured I'd have to fix that, so that was kind of a given. But looking around, I haven't seen any other leaks. So given the fact with how many patches, I think for right now we're doing good. Because I am restoring or rebuilding this boat, I'm trying to keep everything the exact same of what it was when it was on the boat. That way, putting new stuff on should be pretty simple. So, luckily with the front seat, it's still in okay shape. I probably could have still kept it on there, but it is kind of beat up and, you know, waterlogged. So, luckily, since I got this off in one piece, I used this as a pattern to build the new one. The other two seats were, as you can see, completely gone. So that was just measurements and doing that. And I actually went a little wider on those than I think the original ones were. And then it brings back to the back outside the transom that I had to replace. So because I want it to match up the same way that it was before, when I tried to take that off, it just ripped into smithereens. But I was actually able to save one of the corner pieces, which gives me the old exact rounded edge that used to be there. And I just used my angle finder and I put that on the boat and used the old kind of dirt line to give me the actual angle, which is going to actually give me the angle for the new transom. So I am using non-treated plywood. Why? Because plywood is insanely stupidly expensive, and when I bought the boat, the guy gave me this for free to fix it. So I am doing that because I'm not spending $80 on a sheet of plywood. It's going to be fine because what I'm going to do is I got some Thompson water seal. Is once I get all my holes and everything's sanded and ready to go, I'm going to throw a couple coats of Thompson water seal on there just to make sure that we're good to go. So that was some advice there. Let's keep trucking along on this thing. So because I feel like putting holes in a boat is a bad idea, I'm going to use the existing holes that was in holding the transom on. So build my new one. Looks good enough. Got a clamp holding it. I'm going to go through the back side where the bolts sink through. I'm going to have the holes, drill 4 new holes. That way I'm not putting actually any new holes in the boat. And I'm going to wait for that car to go by. And then I'm going to also do the same thing with the seats. I'll clamp the seats in. I'll use the existing bolt holes there, and I'll drill holes that way. And because this video is going to probably go a little longer than I anticipated, let's just montage this whole thing right now. So let's go. Alright, so seats are in. The transom has been redone. The leaks have hopefully been sealed. Still need to test that. So technically we grabbed some oars. We're ready to rock and roll. There is some other little add-ons that I'm going to do. But let me kind of backtrack and explain some stuff. So I went with the burnt finish on the seats to kind of, I didn't want just a plain regular finish. And using the Thompson's water seal, kind of, you can't really paint it from what I've read. So I did the burnt finish. I've also heard that burning the wood also helps seal it. I don't know if that's true, but I did that. And it kind of gives it a little camo pattern to match the outside of the boat. So we went with the burnt finish there. I used all stainless steel hardware, all the screws and bolts putting this back together. This back seat, somebody had modified the under seat part of the seat for some storage. From what I've heard and basically what I've heard is that your bottom of your seats are actually filled with foam. This one still had foam in it, that's why I believe this. But the bottom of the seats are filled with foam to help with buoyancy, and if you take out any leaks, it'll help kind of hold the boat up a little longer. So I replaced all the foam in that one and just reattached these, flushed all the screw heads on so you don't feel them on your butt. But we're ready to go. So let's tack in some cool little add-on things I want to do. Alright, so one thing that I want to do is on all three seats, I'm going to add my own tape measure. There is a old chipped away stick-on tape measure up at the front of the boat, but what if you're in the back of the boat and you want to measure your fish? So I'm going to add tape measures to all three benches. That way, wherever you are on the boat, you kind of have access to it. And I'm just going to simply do that by laying out my tape measure and marking increments. And then I am going to do one more coat of sealer over this, so then it'll also seal this. But I'm going to start at the 0 mark at the edge of where the, well, I guess the bracket that holds the seat on is. So I'll start there. I'm just going to literally make inch marks all along there. And I'm going to mark every couple inches where those numbers so we know where we're at on it. Alright, so what that's going to do is that's going to allow me to catch a fish between 0 and 41 inches. And then I can measure it. Like I said, I'm going to do that on all three seats. The front seat obviously won't be 40 inches, but you figured that out. And finally, the last thing that we're going to do to this boat is I'm going to put a front anchor on it that is controlled in the back. And I'm going to do that by using this contraption thing. It's an anchor system. You feed your rope in through here, and it goes on this pulley. And then I will run the rope out through the inside of the boat using these half-inch conduit clips. I'm going to rivet these to the side of the boat, and then run the rope through. And then I should be in the back. Be able to control the front anchor through there, and then once it's up, should be able to tie it. Never done this before. Seen it on one boat. Let's try it. So the front anchor system does work. I will say what you'd want to do is probably, instead of using the conduit clips, I would probably either use some pulleys or maybe even just eye bolts, because there is a lot of rubbing, and I think eventually it'll rub that rope. But it does work. So maybe later on I might have to redo that. But for right now it is going to work, and it works really well. Alright, the boat is in the water. The boat is floating in the water, which is really a good sign. The front leak has been fixed. The oars work. The front anchor system works. So we're good. The only thing we're not good on is I do have a small leak coming up through the back of this thing. So I got probably maybe a cup of water. It's been about 20-25 minutes. Not too alarming, but I'm going to fix it. My guess is it's the plug. Could also be just a small leak in a seal over there. So I'll reseal the back, probably buy a new plug, and I'm gonna assume we're gonna be good to go. So in a few weeks, I'm taking a family trip up north, and gonna do a lot of fishing. Gonna bring the boat, gonna bring the off-season tip up, and gonna shoot a video, and hopefully we're gonna catch ourselves a pike on an offshore tip up. That's the goal. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching.